All right, as we get started today, all of you now should have received this email about a short survey that you've been asked to take as part of the High Level Learning Commission. And it's about 5 minutes long to take. You know, it's your chance to say what's working, not working, etc. I have not seen the survey, but tomorrow is the last day that they will accept it, and they're really looking for 100%. You will have time today, so if you get time, if you'd please go out and see if you've got that survey, fill it out, turn it in. I'd really appreciate it. All right, thank you. Okay, second, I sent all of you today, I sent you all an email and that email looks like this. Where is it? What I've decided to do, because I'm very concerned with having you understand logic. So those problems that I talked about doing for you in chapters 3 and 4, I've given you starter files that already have the GUI. Does that make sense to everybody? They don't have any code in them whatsoever. All right, and we're going to put some in right now. So we went over chapter 3 yesterday. I've got the presentation I did on chapter 3 is out there on the YouTube channel. So if you did miss yesterday and you want to see it, it's out there. All right. But what I'd like you to do is to grab this folder that's 1/15/2019 and just save it to your desktop or wherever you save this stuff, wherever that happens to be. I'm just going to, and that's what I'm going to work off of. So I'm saving it right to my desktop. All right, so if you've got it there, there's mine right here, 1/15/2019.zip. I'm going to extract it, just throw it right back on the desktop where it was. And there it is. Okay, so I'm going to open that, and you'll notice if you go into it that there are 3 files in there, 3 projects. From chapter 4, there is the admission, which is like number 2 or 3, and there's the rock, paper, scissors, which I believe is number 8. We won't have enough time to go through all 3 of these today. At a minimum, what I'd like to do this morning is to go over the code for the MoveEstimator GUI. All right, and hopefully we can do that in about a half an hour or so. Then go into chapter 4, have the lecture on chapter 4. You've already seen in front of you, you've got the study guides for both chapter 4 and for chapter 5. All right, if there's any time left, and I don't want to go, you know, I want to give you at least an hour, if not more, to work. All right, then I'd like to start going through the admission thing. Okay, the one for the rock, paper, scissors is going to take more time. All right. Okay, so if you would please bring up this MoveEstimator GUI. It's my interface. If you don't like it, feel free to change it around any way you'd like to change it around. It really doesn't matter. There's not that much on it. Right now, it looks just like this. All right. Now, the way that this is set up, this program, just so you know, all right, it's basically to figure out how much it would cost for you to make a move. Okay. And what they're saying is the base cost is $200. So in other words, for people that just come over to your house, it is $200. All right. Then for every hour that they have to spend packing stuff up, unpacking, loading, unloading, etc., that's got a price to it. All right. Finally, there's a cost per mile to move. So you put a number in here, you put a number in here, you click calculate, and boom, it adds the 200 plus that number, and it puts the result there. Does that make sense to everyone? Yes or no? Is there anyone that doesn't make sense to? All right. You'll notice if you look up on the screen, I have two fields that I have created that are read-only. One is the move base cost, which is at 200 bucks, because that's what we were told it is. All right. The other one is the total bill. The clear and the exit, hopefully those make sense. The exit literally is what we have been using. The clear, what do we want to do here? We want to clear this, we want to clear this, we want to clear this, and we want the focus to go here. That should make sense by now. All right? So if I come in here and I bring up the code for this, again, what I did was I created it, got it to work, and then I ripped all the code out. So here's the prologue. So again, it's $200 for the move, and then it's $150 an hour and $2 per mile. All right. So the first thing that I did was I came in here, and you've seen this before. I did a declare and initialize program constants, and I had a few of them. All right. So first. And I just call this move base rate, and I set that equal to 200. Again, that's the cost. All right, that is the cost whenever you want to go and make a move. All right. Then they said that each hour is $150. So that was the second one. And then they said for every mile that you've got to move, that's $2. All right. And then I added two more things that I made them, they're both strings. I call the first one illegal input, and I set it equal to literally that, illegal input. All right, we'll see how that's used in just a minute. Then I had another string that I called this is what I'm going to use to fill up the message box. And this is going to be the title. It'll say illegal input. And then here it'll say non-numeric or OOR, which is out of range. That should make sense to you. All right. So what does that mean? Well, it's going to be out of range if I say, for example, if I put an illegal value in for if I put some kind of an illegal value in for the per hour. All right, non-numeric, etc. Or if I do it for the, and that's per mile, not per mil. All right. So I've got three double constants. Move base rate, which is 200 bucks. Move per hour rate, which is 150 bucks. All right. A move per mile rate, which is $2. In a legal input, which again I'm going to use for my message box, and a non-numeric or out of range input, which I'm also going to use for my message box. All right? Now, when you write this, the first thing for you to realize, when we go over a bunch of these examples, I'm going to write a lot of them in a very similar manner. That doesn't mean it has to be done that way. That doesn't mean, by no means am I saying, you should always do it this way because I'm really that good. No. I'm telling you, this is the way that I chose to attack the problem. If you disagree with the way that I've done it, and you think you can come up with a better way, that's what you should do. I have no problem with that. All right? What I will ask of you, and I'm just going to tell you very quickly a story from my own past when I was your age, as they say. I remember the first real programming class, or one of them, that I took, all right, I had finished the program, and I thought it wasn't well written. So I showed it to the instructor, And I said, hey, I've just finished this. It looks like it runs correctly, etc. He looked at it, said it did. But I said, I think I could make it a lot better than this. And he said, what do you mean? I said, I don't like their specs or anything else. I like to rewrite it. And he said, do that, but just do one thing. I said, what's that? And he said, make a copy of what you're working on. Not in case you screw it up, but when you screw it up. And he was correct. So what I'm saying is, I'll get you where this works, but if you decide you want to rewrite it in your own way, just make a copy of this. That's it. All right. But the way I'm going to write this is I'm going to come in here, and in my calculate button, I'm going to have a variable in here that I'm just going to call keep going. And I'm going to set it equal to true. All right? And I don't want the word Boolean in there. I want the word bool in there. There. All right. That's kind of interesting. If you look up on the screen, everybody see that? See what color blue that is? Everybody see what I'm talking about? Kind of a royal blue, maybe you'd call it. But notice if I type in this, how it turns a different color blue. That's a color for a class name. Okay, this is a class name right here, Boolean. This is a variable type. All right, just so you're aware of that. Do you have to care? No, but I'm just mentioning it to you, that's all. All right. Now again, I can come in here and I can write comments. All right, bless you. For instance, this is what I'm going to just call the program continue variable. Now you might say, that's fine. Why didn't you call it continue? Because continue is a key word. I can't use it to see whether or not I want to continue the program. So I'm using the word keep going. And other than that, it has no significance. All right. Then we've got hours. Hours needed for move. We've got miles. Miles driven for move. And we've got the total bill. Now I could sit there and write, because that's what it is. So I could sit in there if I wanted to, and I could write hour base rate plus hours plus miles, but I just put in their total bill. That's it. All right. When you write programs in the way that I'm about to show you, and you're using this variable to see whether or not you want to have the program continue to keep executing, since it's a Boolean, you're best off either initializing that Boolean to true or false. Didn't we say Boolean variables can only hold true or false, correct? All right, so I've got my choice. I can either assume everything is hunky-dory, all right, or as our president said the other day, peachy-dory, which I'd never heard before. But I can assume that everything is correct and set this to true, or I can assume that it's not correct and set it to false. I'm going to start by assuming I want to run the program, so I'm setting that variable to true. Also, and you've heard me say this before, you'll notice that each one of these variables that you see here, each one right now has the green squigglies underneath it, which means I have declared a variable, I have initialized it, but I'm not yet using it in my program. So we're going to start using it right now. And notice, I'm going to type in this right now. I'm going to type in keep going. And this is going to give me an error message because I'm going to call a routine I haven't written yet. So keep going equals is numeric, text box, hours dot text. But notice, as soon as I type that in and hit enter, you see how the squigglies under keep going went away? Because I am using it now. But now, wow, I guess we have written that one already. I just didn't put the code in. All right, so you didn't get an error. But if this did not exist yet, So for instance, don't change yours, but let's say I said is numeric 2. Okay? When you get the red squigglies, that's a bad thing. Okay? The red squigglies mean there is an error in your program. The green squigglies mean it's a warning. All right? So what I want to do, if you look up on the screen, I'll go right back to the code. But the first thing I want to do is check the value that I put in there, the hours. I want to make sure that that number that I put in there is numeric. Make sense? All right, I'm asking for hours, so to me at least it makes sense. All right? So we don't have to do it yet, but let's go in there and let's write the code for that is numeric. You've seen it before. All right, I'm not going to put return true here. Okay? The nice thing about this is it's just 2 lines long. Double test, return, double dot, try parse, input, out, test. Now, we have not talked about this yet, so I'd like to take just a minute to explain it. All right? This value right here, and that should be a string with a little s, so that's my error. All right? That value, make sure you use string with a little s there. It'll work either way, but make it string with a little s. This is the value I'm passing in. Does everybody understand? Look on the screen, please. Even if you're typing, stop for a second. That value right now when I call it is this. Does that make sense? All right? So you can say, well, why didn't you call it that? Well, we could have. All right? But this is called an actual parameter. That's its real name. All right? For instance, my real name is Jeffrey. All right? In high school, when I played baseball, a few guys on the team called me Scotty. So I could be Scotty in here. My actual name is here. This is called the formal name. Formal maybe is a weird way to put it, but that's just the terminology that's used. So the actual parameter is the real name I want to put in there. The formal parameter, all right, is the way I'm going to refer to it in the routine. So in the routine, it is now called input. So literally what gets passed into there is whatever value is in here. Okay? Then I've got a variable here called test. It's a double. Now, can I go in and put equals 0.0 right there? The answer is sure. We can do that. What this literally says, I want to just keep it as simple as possible. This says, attempt to take what's in here, attempt to take what's in here, all right, and convert it to a double. If you can, put it in here and return true, meaning I can do it. If you can't, don't put it in here and return false. So all it's saying in English is, can I take the value that's currently in that text box for hours and convert it to a number? If I can, return true. If I can't, return false. All right, that's exactly what it means. I can't put it any simpler than that. So hopefully, hopefully that makes sense to you. Now, if you look here, at first when we started doing this, we took this keep going and we set it equal to true. Now we're saying keep going equals this. What that means is we want to run the program, and the first thing we want you to do is to check what's in there. And if that's not a number, I don't want to keep going. Does that make sense? It makes no sense to continue on. But if it is a number, then I'm going to want to go on and check that one. All right, and I'm going to do the same kind of thing for the next one. So why am I even telling you this? Because what this particular program is showing you, and we've looked at it, but not really in any depth or breadth of coverage, is what Chapter 4 is all about. And that is an if statement. And the easiest way to explain an if statement, because we've all done this. You're driving down a road, and all of a sudden the road goes like that. All right? And it ends. So you've either got to go left or you've got to go right. So this says if I want to go left, do this, else do this. All right? If all I've got is this, then there's no if. I'm sorry, there's no else. It's just if I want to keep going, I turn left. So what we're going to go through in this chapter, among other things, is how to use an if statement. Now, I'm going to show you an if because it's the next line we're going to put into our code right here. But please don't type for just a second because I want to show you how you may do it and how most programmers do it. All right? So what we want to type in here, again, don't put this in because I'm going to change it. You want to say if keep going equal true. In other words, I ran this right here. Keep going either now has a value of true or of false. And if it's true, this is what I want to do. And that's totally fine to write it like that, but there's a shortcut for writing it. And that is, that's all you have to say. So if keep going means exactly the same thing as if keep going equal true. If it makes more sense to you to write it the other way, then write it the other way. All right? All right. So if that's the case, well, that if this is true, that means this returned true. That means we put a number in here. Does that make sense to everybody? All right? So what? Well, one thing that we can do then is we've got a variable here called hours. So we can now come in and say hours equal convert dot to double text box hours dot text. So we've got this one is done now. We now have our base rate, which is 200. We also have a number that we put in for hours. I didn't check for negative or positive. I didn't do that. We probably should. You wouldn't really want to put a negative number of hours. You know, that wouldn't really make sense, but I'm not going to worry about that for right now. All right? So that's the first thing I want to do. But now the second thing I want to do is now I want to come in and check that box. I want to check the miles box. So what am I going to do? The same thing that I did here, I'm going to put down here, except now instead of hours, I'm going to check miles. Okay, so this, again, right here, this says is numeric returned true. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to put an else, and that's going to basically say, whoops, okay, try it again. Don't know why it's doing all that, but why isn't it letting me do that? I don't know, but I'll do it down here. That's fine. So, if is numeric did not return true, here's a hard question. If it didn't return true, what did it return? False, right? So I'm going to grab this. I like to be consistent with the way I set this stuff up. All right. So if I get into the code that's right here, right where my cursor is blinking, that means that whatever I put into right there was not a number. Does that make sense? Maybe I left it blank. Maybe I put hello in there. I don't know why. But what do I want to do? Well, I want to take anything that's in there, regardless of what it is, I want to take anything that's in there, okay, and I want to remove it. And then I want to put the cursor right back there. All right? So the first thing that I want to do, okay, not the first, but what we want to do is we want to say text box hours dot text equals double quote, double quote. That's going to clear it out. And we want to say text box hours dot focus. All right, that's a good thing. So please look on the screen here. I'll come right back to it. But look on the screen. If I go and run the program now, and I come in here and I put in garbage, and I click calculate, see how it removed it and it put the cursor there? That's the good news. The bad news is if I'm the person running the program, I may not have any idea at all what just happened. So it would be kind of nice, if we're going to do this, it would be kind of nice to give them a message and let them know what's going on. So I'm going to do that first. So I'm going to come in here, and you'll notice if you look down here, I wrote this routine called alert message. We'll fill that in later. Don't worry about what it does. All right? But I'm going to come in here and I'm going to call alert message, and I'm going to pass into that illegal input, and I'm also going to pass into that and then that thing. What's going to happen in there in just a minute is we're going to build a message box, and that message box is going to say illegal input. That's the title. Then in here, it's going to end up saying non-numeric or OOR or out of range input. Okay? It's going to have here a button that says OK, and over here it's going to have an icon with an X in it, which means an error. We're going to write that in just a second. All right? So what I'm doing is I'm letting the user know something's wrong. All right? I'm just letting him or her know something you just did here is wrong. All right? So, again, look on the screen. Illegal input becomes message. NNOR input becomes title. All right? And I probably did it backwards. But we'll see. I'm not going to worry about it. Okay? So we're going to come in here and we're going to say message box dot show message title all right. Let me run it and make sure that I put it in the right order, because I don't know if I did or not. So I'm putting nothing in there. In fact, I'll put garbage in there again. Now notice what happens when we run it. Okay, it is backwards. That should be the title. That should be up there, and that should be down here. Okay, no big thing. All I have to do is change the order in which I put these in here. So this one should say NNOR input, comma, and then that one should be there. Sorry, I did them backwards. Okay, change that around, put that one first. Okay, so what this is saying is I want to create an alert message. This will be the message, and where did I get that from? Right here, non-numeric or OOR input. This will be the title. Where did I get that from? Right here, illegal input. All right, so now if I go and run this, and I don't put anything in it, notice illegal input, non-numeric or out of range input. Does that make sense? What I'm doing is I'm validating my data. That's it. I'm just validating. I'm trying to make sure that what I put in there indeed is valid. So that's the routine right there. All right. And again, it may sound like we've done a lot, or maybe it doesn't sound at all like we've done a lot, but now when we jump back up here, we've now validated that field, all right, and we're about to go in and attempt to validate the other field, all right. So what I can do, it's almost this. I'm going to do almost the same thing here, okay. So I can come in here, and again, I don't have to do it like this. But I've got this and I've got that, so I'm going to grab all this if and this else that are right there. I'm going to grab both of those, copy them to the clipboard, and paste them back in again. But now, instead of hours, this is going to be miles. That's going to be miles. That's going to be miles. That's going to be miles. All right? So it's the same, I'm calling the same routine, except I'm doing it now on the other field. All right? I don't need this anymore. So notice now, if I run this, and I put garbage in here, it catches it. Okay? Wow, it's catching it twice. I'll have to fix that in a minute. But if I put garbage in here now, it says illegal input, non-numeric or out of range. That's what I wanted. All right. Did you notice? I'd like to say I did this on purpose, but I didn't. If I put a value in here that's this, I want the program to give me an error message and then stop. Are you with me? I don't want it to go and check here. Why should it check there? That's already bad. So I want it to stop as soon as it checks this. Well, it's because I forgot a line of code. And it's very simple. And it's right here in this else. After I put this in, I type in the word return. All right? So I added that to the first else. Now, if this right here is true, look on the screen, please. If that's true, if that returned true, that means both the hours were okay and the miles were okay. So now I've got valid values. Now I can create my bill. All right? Pardon me? Yes, we will. And I'll explain why in just a second. But after we do that miles, now we can say the bill is equal to another routine which we'll call calculate bill. And that will need the hours and that will need the miles. All right? What I'm showing you in here, everybody in here remember, I know with me, I don't know why, but it sticks in my mind. All right? My 4th grade teacher, I can still tell you about her, Mrs. Dimmick. And I remember with her, that's when we learned how to write outlines. And we went from stuff that was very general to very specific. Roman numeral 1, then an A, then a 1, 2, 3, etc. From the most general stuff to the most specific. We took whatever we had and we broke it down into pieces. If you don't get that, it's like, let's say that you've got your own apartment. And you come home and it's a 2-bedroom apartment and your apartment's filthy. And you go, there's no way, I don't feel like cleaning this. But then maybe you separate it into jobs. You go, you know what, I'll clean my bedroom. All right, then I'll clean the spare bedroom. So you're breaking it into units. That's what we're doing here. Rather than doing everything in the same area, I'm busting it up. So this calculate bill is actually really, really simple. All right? And basically what I have to do is I have to take the 200 and then multiply that by whatever I put in there for hours times the hourly rate and add to that whatever I put in there for miles and times the mile rate. That's it. So if we come down here, now I'm going to write it over a few different lines, okay? And I'm going to put in here double B, that's going to be the bill, equals 0.0. All right? Then I'm going to say B equals, and I probably have too many parentheses in here, but you know what? Tough. All right? And it's going to be B equals that move rate, that is $200. All right? The move base rate, that's $200 plus, then I'm going to add my other pieces to it. I'm going to put each piece on its own line. All right? H, which is the hours, times the move per hour rate plus the miles times the move per mile rate. All right, and after I've got all that done, I don't know how I lost that line, but I did. In fact, I think I can just do this. I can come in here and type in double B equals that. All right. Okay. Then I come in here and I say return B. So now I've created the bill. So again, imagine, look on the screen if you would. Let's suppose here that the number of hours needed were 10, and let's suppose the miles to move were 1,000. Just keep using real easy to use numbers. So what I'm saying is my total bill will be this 200 plus the number of hours that I needed, which are 10 times the hourly rate, which I think was 150. So that's going to be equal to 1,500 plus the miles to move, which are 1,000 times, I think it's $2 per mile. So that's going to be 2,000. So what should happen if I put those numbers in is it should cost me $3,700 to move. Does that make sense? All right. And we're going to try it out in just a couple of minutes to see if indeed that's what it gives us. Now, I don't want to confuse you. I made a brand new variable here that I called B. Everybody see that? I didn't even have to do that. I could have just said return. That's probably a cleaner way of doing it. So either of those ways would work. And again, good, bad, or indifferent, there's always plenty ways to do the same thing. Plenty of different ways. And it's not, I mean, somebody came up and asked me yesterday, I don't remember what it was, but somebody came up and said, well, which of those is better? You know, you can't answer that. The better one for you right now is probably the one that makes more sense to you. All right? So after I've done that, after I calculated the bill, well, the only other thing to do then is, after I calculate the bill, I better put it where it belongs. So that's text box, what is it called? What did we call that? This. Text box bill. Well, that would have been nice. Text box bill dot text equals the bill dot toString, and I'll make it currency. So this right here is the line I just added. I just figured out the bill, and now I'm going to put it in there. All right, so the only thing that we've got left to do is to write our clear routine and to write our exit routine. We'll do that in a minute, but first, let's save this and run it. Now, I just gave you some examples. So the hours, 10, so that should be 1,500. The miles, 1,000, so that should be 2,000. Click calculate, and we get 3,700. That's what we wanted. So that works. But right now, the clear button is not operational. So again, when we click clear, we want to clear this, we want to clear this, we want to clear this, and we want the cursor to go there. 4 lines of code. All right? Pretty easy to do. So I'm going to go down into that clear routine, and I'm going to write in here text box hours.text equals double quote, text box miles.text equals double quote, text box bill.text equals double quote, and text box hours dot focus. That's the whole routine. And I just showed you everything that does. It clears out all 3 of the text boxes, so it clears out this one, and this one, and this one, then it puts the cursor back there. That's about as simple as it gets. All right? And then for the exit, all right, this is the same one that I showed you before. If message box dot show you there, but not you there. And that's the whole program right there. That should be everything. We've programmed all 3 buttons. We programmed our calculate button to figure out the bill for us and to validate that indeed the values that we put in for the bill were valid. All right, meaning that the hours that we wanted to go work were valid, meaning that the miles that we put in were valid. All right, that we filled in the bill. This up here, that did our clear button, all right, and this down here does the exit button. Should be, unless I made a mistake, which is always possible, but let me save it and make sure. So again, I'm just going to throw some junk in. I'll actually put in numbers in there. All right. So does clear work? Does this get removed? Does this get removed? Does this get removed? And does it put our cursor right there? I'm going to put my cursor in a different field just to make sure. Click clear. They've all been removed, and there's my cursor. Click exit. All right. Do I want to exit the program? If I say no, I stay there. If I say yes, I'm gone. All right. To me, one of the problems that beginning programmers have is they get kind of a mindset, this is way too hard. And it really makes a lot of sense when you take the time to break it up like this. So what I attempted to do in this example was a few things. First, to show you an if statement, and actually an if else. Please look on the screen here right now. That's an if without an else. If that's true, if we clicked yes on that box that came up, the dialog box that says exit program is the title, exit the program now is the text, it's got a yes and a no button. If we click the yes button, get out. Since there's no else, if we don't click the yes button, which means we click the no button, nothing happens. That's what we want to have. So that's an if without an else. When you look up here, that's an if with an else. And the key thing to realize, because if you get this, there's nothing more to get. If that's true, we do this and we skip this. If that's false, we do this. So either the code that's in the if block must execute, meaning the code in the else block does not execute, or the code in the if block does not execute, which means the code in the else block must execute. And if you get that, there's nothing else to get. So I mean, what if this was something as simple as if x equals 6, and we put in here, I don't know, did a message box. I'm not going to write all this stuff out. You can see it right there. But if I came in, I would write, it's 6. Else, we'd do a different message box, and we'd say, it's not 6. That means that when we run this code, either that message box prints or that one does. They cannot both print, and one must print. That's all there is to, usually having a selection like that in here. There really is nothing else. All right. Now that was enough to go through, and I went through it, I would say, quickly. Anyone have any questions on what we just went over? All right, it's 8:54 then. Let's please come back at 5 after 9.